Um, Thank you all, and I will hand the floor back over to Vice Chair Wansley to discuss items 32 through 35.
Thank you. So as you read, these items are related to worker compensation claims, specifically for MPD officers. And I know that we have had lots of discussions about worker compensation claims in POGO this term. But despite these conversations, I have to know I'm still frustrated that there has not been any changes done internally to ensure that when staff are bringing these claims forward to council and they're on the agenda, that council members can feel confident that due diligence was done to minimize the likelihood that, this important social welfare system that is workers' comp for first responders particularly is not being misused or abused. For several months now, council has had several of these claims come forward, and some of the officers that has been considered with these claims have documented problematic histories. Some have even been caught on public record for lying. Simultaneously, as these claims have come forward, there have been several conversations about staffing issues within MPD and their ability to recruit candidates. And I have said this many times, but I think it bears repeating that I believe the biggest barrier for MPD and recruiting officers to join their ranks is their own reluctance in properly disciplining officers and actively promoting officers who have demonstrated records where there's a lack of integrity. When, in fact, the public Google the names of the officers that we're considering today, there's so much that comes up. And I actually want to take a moment to read a few snippets from the articles I discovered during my own Google search that offers some context about the backgrounds and histories of the officers that we're considering today for several worker comps claims. In regards to Logan Johansson, NPR article from July 2021 writes, in a memo from last March recently made public, Officer Logan Johansson said that he and others at the 2nd Precinct decided to destroy all non-active case files, as well as those containing information about confidential informants. Johansson wrote that this was in direct response to the abandonment of the 3rd Police Precinct in Minneapolis by city leadership. In regards to Peter Brazeau, here's a quote from a 2022 CARE 11 article. Officers Brazeau and Braun were working an overnight shift in downtown Minneapolis in December 2016 when they ordered an intoxicated man to lay on the ground, where they handcuffed him behind his back to take him to the hospital. The man kicked at them, knocking off Brazeau's body cam. In response, Brazeau punched the handcuffed man in the head 4 times, followed with a strike by Braun. The man would still go to a hospital but left behind a pool of blood, records show. The beating was so severe that both officers were relieved of duty, but MPD not only put them back to work, the department also made them field training officers, FTOs. Having cops with records of misconduct train new generations of recruits is all too common for the MPD. Of the more than 400 Minneapolis cops who have served as FTOs, also known as field training officers, since 2016, nearly a third of them, like Brazeau and Braun, have been disciplined or named in lawsuits that have cost taxpayers more than $34 million, a CARE 11 investigation has found. In regards to Andrew Braun, the city settled with journalist Linda Tirado for $600,000 after she alleged that Officer Andrew Braun shot her in the face with a rubber bullet during the summer of 2020. Now, in regards to the settlement claim for Muhammad Abdullahi, he was one of the 14 officers who wrote an open letter to Minneapolis residents stating, "We wholeheartedly condemn Derek Chauvin. Like us, Derek Chauvin took an oath to hold the sanctity of life most precious. Derek Chauvin failed as a human and stripped George Floyd of his dignity and life, and this is not who we are. We stand ready to listen and embrace the calls for change, reform, and rebuilding." Particular contrast from the other officers that I just named for these workers' comps claims. But what these stories highlight is a repeated theme within MPD, specifically of officers with problematic histories being promoted within the department. And even with our new police chief, the practice of MPD promoting officers who have broken the public's trust. And I really wish there was some internal reflection amongst the city administration and MPD, as well as the executive leadership, about this persistent problem. And instead of deflecting to pay raises, perhaps leadership could consider what internal practices they could implement that would signal that this police department was actually serious about fixing these systemic issues that has caused it to receive not one but 2 consent decrees. And so in regards to the items in front of us, until serious conversations and safeguards are implemented in how the city approves these worker comp claims, I will not and cannot support them. And I wanted to state that, as these are the last claims we'll be approving in this committee for this term, as we're going into the next year where we're going to have to consider more of these claims. We need to keep these things in context. So with that, I just want to share those public comments, and I'm done.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And I think over the past couple of years, I've shared a lot of the frustration that you're hearing from Vice Chair and Wansley now, and a number of our colleagues, and a couple of things. First, I want to say that I think that staff has executed these to the extent that the administration has asked, and to the extent that conventional wisdom would demand. And so I think that is, one thing that I want to be able to name, because I do think that our staff has done their best effort to make sure that we are mitigating our cost and our risk here. I do think that it is more than appropriate for council members to question whether this is the right approach, and I have supported approving 99% of these over the last couple of years, and so, but I do think that when they're in the one that I have voted against, and there's a couple of these that I am going to make an argument to vote against today. I think when we see that track record of dishonesty, that's when it makes it hard to support these. I understand that somebody's misconduct does not sort of play an active role in our ability to have to make decisions here, and if we were making votes based solely on which of these officers we think acted below their conduct, then I'd probably be supporting far fewer of these. But because of the risk, and because I have developed an active understanding of how these work, I've supported most of these. I am going to move to approve just item 33. I think that as you look at Officer Muhammad Abdullahi and you Google him and the public record on him, I think is one that would say that I have not seen any record of dishonesty in the way that he conducted himself in his job, and so I'm going to move approval of that item. For the clerks, I'll ask for items 32, 34, and 35. If we were going to deny these, and I don't know how the body's going to decide, but would this be just a vote to deny, or would this be a vote to refer back to staff? Is there a material difference, and does staff have a preference in how we take those actions?
Mr. Chair, the committee here has essentially 3 options, but all of them are recommendations to council. So you can move to approve, which would be a recommendation for council to approve. Yep. You could move to deny, which would be a recommendation for council to deny. Yep. Or you could send forward without recommendation.
I got it. All right. Well, I'm gonna move to approve item 33, and can the clerks call the roll on that?
Councilmember Vital.
Aye.
Chavez.
Aye.
Koski.
Aye.
Osman.
Aye.
Vice Chair Wansley.
Aye.
And Chair Ellison.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes.
I am going to move to deny items 32, 33, 34, and 35. I do so understanding the amount of work that our staff has put in. I do so understanding the amount of risk that we take on. I'm happy to play an active role in how we have these discussions and how we, strategize moving forward. I think that some of the oversight that we've seen at the state level has been really encouraging, but I do think that council members are increasingly concerned about, how we begin to even start the conversation of mitigating these costs. And so I do so with those things in mind, and I don't make that motion lightly. I don't know if it will prevail here, but I will make the motion to deny items 32, 34, and 35. And so I see the attorney would like to speak. Attorney Nielsen.
Thank you, Chair Ellison. And you actually stated a lot of my thoughts well, but I'm duty bound to reiterate my advice. Excuse me. Just a reminder, and I've said this before when these items have come up, the workers' compensation system is a no-fault system. Mm-hmm. The city is also, as you're aware, dealing with a legal presumption when an employee is diagnosed with PTSD. The presumption is in favor of the employee, in this case, law enforcement personnel, that it was a work-related occupational disease or injury. And then finally, that past misconduct is not relevant to either the evaluation or the legal course of a workers' compensation claim. So with that said.
Thank you, City Attorney Nielsen. And yeah, that definitely reflects the reason that I've supported so many of these and cautiously am making this motion here. So thank you for that, for reiterating what the staff's recommendation and our attorney's advice is. Any further discussion? Councilmember Osmond.
I just have a question. Your motion is to deny it, and that will get to the council. Will the council then have a power to approve these items? Am I correct? Okay.
The council would
Sure.
have an opportunity to approve. Yep. Is there any further discussion? All right. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion to deny these items.
Councilmember Vital,
No.
Chavez,
Aye.
Koski,
Nay.
Osmond,
No.
Vice Chair Wansley,
Aye.
and Chair Ellison.
Aye.
We have 3 ayes and 3 nays.
That motion fails. I will move to forward without recommendation, these 3 items. And when the clerk is ready, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vital,
Aye.
Chavez,
No.
Koski,
Aye.
Osmond,
Aye.
Vice Chair Wansley,
Nay.
and Chair Ellison.
Aye.
We have 4 ayes and 2 nays.
All right, those items are forwarded without recommendation, and thank you to my colleagues and to the city attorney for the discussion, and to staff for its recommendation. I do not want questions that happen up here on this dais to question the diligence and the professionalism that our staff bring these recommendations forward to us with. So thank you. All right, well, with that, we have concluded all business to come before the committee today, and with no objections, we are adjourned.